Hi, it's time for VOBS, Voiceover Body Shop, Tech Talk. Tech Talk.
Tech Talk.
Tech Talk. Tech Talk. Where's Jeff? Jeff, you're in there.
Tech Talk.
Tech Talk.
Tech Talk.
Okay, whatever. So if you have a question for us, if you're watching us live right now, which you should all be doing, look at the opportunity you have to ask George and I questions about your home voiceover studio technology. Whether you got a problem or a piece of gear you want to buy or you want to get rid of something, put it in the chat room right now. And Jeff Holman, who you just heard saying Tech Talk, will throw it into our document that we know there's a question there. We will ask that question, or we will be asked that question in the next segment. But are you ready, George?
I'm ready.
You got a pile of stuff there, and I've got something cool, too, about... is that a noisy mic? Well, we'll find out. Time for VoiceOver Body Shop Tech Talk right now. VoiceOver Body Shop Tech Talk is brought to you by VoiceOverEssentials.com, the home of Harlan Hogan's signature products. Source Elements, the folks who bring you Source Connect. VOHeroes.com, become a hero to your clients with award-winning voiceover training. VoiceActor.com, your voiceover website ready in minutes. VoiceOver Extra, your daily resource for voiceover success. And by World Voices, the Industry Association of Freelance Voice Talent. And now, here's your hosts, Dan and George. Well, hello there. How you doing? I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
Or VOBS Tech Talk. There's your chance again, Jeff.
Talk.
We could just make them fade out. This is number 106. It's unbelievable how many shows we've done, and time just keeps marching on, but VoiceOver continues to march on, despite what people are saying about it and AI and things like that, but we're not going to worry about that.
I'm so glad they keep making more crap to talk about.
I know, and you've got plenty. But here's the thing, and the reason you've joined us this particular hour, and hopefully you will stay with us this entire hour, because you're going to miss all sorts of stuff if you leave. George and I are experts in home voiceover studios, if you haven't figured that one out. And one of the things we do is we fix stuff, and another thing we do is we set it up so it doesn't break, and we make it so it's easy for you. Because apparently, the more people I talk to, the more I realize that nobody out there in the coaching world or any of this stuff knows what on earth they're talking about when it comes to home voiceover studios. But the thing is every voice is different and every room is different. And George and I understand that, and that's what we work with. Finding out what's going to work with you in your lifestyle, in your place of residence. Is it going to interfere with other things going on? Is it going to be quiet enough? There's all these things, but you have to know what they are. And fortunately, George and I do. And you can work with us personally. We'll talk to you one-on-one. Sometimes we can actually come to your house if you're here in Southern California. George, you go all over the place, and you're always asking people, hey, I'm going to be in town. Can I drop it down to your house? And people let you do that. And if they want to do that, or if they just want to talk to you any place, where would they go?
Yeah, you'd head over to georgethe.tech. That's where you'll find me, and really, actually, a bunch of people. Because George the Tech is performer-friendly techs. So we have numerous folks to help you with different styles of software and types of technical issues. And we're available almost around the clock because we've got people in different countries. We have people in different time zones. We have folks available that made themselves available by phone, which, is getting more increasingly rare to reach somebody on the phone when you call. So there's a lot of ways we can help you. So head over there to georgethe.tech, and don't forget to use the coupon code that I announce at the end of every VOBS to get your discount.
You got to stay to the end to get that.
That's right.
Unless you're watching the replay and just go fast forward to it. Then
Exactly. And then Dan is on the internet doing tech stuff and other things over at
HomeVoiceOverStudio.com. Yes, I was so lucky to grab that particular URL, and no one's ever going to have it again. What I do is I like working with beginners and people who I think have a lot of potential and just perhaps don't know how to record. And so if you go over to my website and you can contact me there, one of the things that I have is, and the more I think about it, the more bad taste this is, which to me means who cares, is my specimen collection cup, where you can drop your MP3 of your audio, follow the instructions thoroughly, and for $25, I will analyze your audio, ask anybody that has sent their audio to me if I have not been incredibly thorough in explaining what their audio sounds like. And so that's what you should do right after this show, is send me your audio. No, you don't have to do it right after the show. I mean, they tend to pile up after a while, and then I have to work.
Runneth over eventually.
Yeah, it does. So what do we got in your tech update this week? It looks like a pile of stuff.
Yeah, everybody had well, not everybody. A lot of people flipped out when they found out that TwistedWave was going to a subscription. So, yes, a lot of people were upset. Well, okay, let's just be straight. TwistedWave has been absolutely, completely, 100% a buyout license one time, and you buy it once, you own it for life, right? And it's been that way for a really, really long time. Incredibly generous. We've gotten upgrades and updates, of course, but upgrades to new versions, new features, on and on for the last 15 years. And Thomas, I should say, has never asked for any more money. Finally, he decided, after I think people literally were telling him when he told them what he does for a living, is how do you expect to keep doing that for a living if you're going to do that business model? It ain't going to work. It's time for you to offer subscriptions. And he does now. So the quick thing here is to demystify this whole thing a little bit. And if I can do that without creating a complete, total, and utter train wreck on the here we go. Not too bad. All right. So let's start over here on the left-hand side. Let's get this part. 12 months of uninterrupted subscription payments qualify you for receiving a perpetual fallback license.
What is that?
Another way to interpret that is, if you pay for a year, which is $100, which is exactly the same price as it's $100, you own a license forever. You're good. You're good to go. That is the maximum of your obligation, is to pay $100. You own TwistedWave. What do you not get? It means that you don't get the next upgrade of TwistedWave when it comes out. So, is that a problem? Maybe not. A lot of people never upgrade TwistedWave because it works fine year after year. When do they have to upgrade? Typically when they get a new Mac. When they get a brand new OS and they realize, oh, that version from 11 years ago is starting to be a little unstable, then they're forced to upgrade. And at that time, you would probably decide to renew your subscription, which you can do basically on a monthly basis as well. So whether you do it by the month or by the year, if it's by the month, you're going to be paying every month $10. By the year, $100. So by the year, you're saving 2 months worth, right, of the subscription. Another thing is, if you've already been using the product, he's going to give you a little discount as a thanks for getting started. So if you've had an existing license already, you're going to get some discounts, right? So if you've had it for a long time, you're going to get 40% off on your third year and onward subscription, right?
All right.
So basically, the first year is $100, second year is $80, third year and onward is $60. But again, you don't have to stay in subscription. You can cancel and continue to use TwistedWave until you have to upgrade because of a software choice. And when you buy a new Mac, and you get a new OS version, you made a choice. And at that point, you have to pay some more. So I hope that kind of demystifies a little bit about this whole thing. Don't freak out. I mean, some of you were like, I've still used Adobe Audition 1.5. Well, this is no different than that. It's like you bought it once in 1998 and you still use it. Well, if you have a computer that's compatible with that version, you can use it for the rest of your life and never pay another dime.
Heck, we know people who are still using Cool Edit Pro. I mean, for crying out loud.
There are people out there. Yeah, it's true. So anyway, TwistedWave, that's the story. I think whatever your ethics are about subscriptions, I think he's doing it in the most fair and ethical way that one can. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I mean, we've gotten a free ride on that for like 15 years. And so I think the developer who has served us so well deserves to make a living doing this.
I think so. I know if you just bought it a month or 2 ago, okay, I could see. But if you bought it a month or 2 ago, you're fine. You don't need to buy a new version for a really long time. You may not need to start a subscription for another 2 to 5 years. So anyway, moving on. I was going to mention very briefly, this is a whole long discussion, but just through food for thought. Maybe the way you monitor while editing isn't the right way to monitor, and maybe not for the reasons you're thinking. I deal with voice actors all day who overanalyze the audio that they're hearing in their headphones to the point of almost being crippled, especially the people doing long form stuff where they just simply do not have the time to agonize over every little mouth noise, every little sibilant thing they hear, or any other little flaw, nasal, glottal stop, whatever it is. Some of you don't have time for doing this. Those that do have time for doing this are doing probably very large budget productions. And in those cases, there's usually somebody else's job is to agonize over that, right? So my point is sometimes the headphones you might be using are too good, too detailed, and too revealing of certain flaws in your mouth. And you might want to try different headphones. Or you might want to not use headphones at all and use speakers while editing. And what that's going to do is speakers, of course, at least if you have good monitor speakers, they are quite detailed, but they're still going to be less intensively detailed than having a speaker driver that's a half an inch from your ear, right? So it may help you move along a little more quickly to downgrade or at least have monitoring that is less insanely detailed sounding than headphones. Just food for thought, something to try and see how it works on your next big long project. I'm hearing people spending 6, 8, 10 to 1 hour ratios on audiobooks from time to time because they're editing out every flaw, and that's because they hear them all and you get obsessed with them.
Yeah, you can't hear that stuff on laptop speakers. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, or you often can't hear that stuff after it's been obliterated by Audible and the codec that they use for audio. I mean, they really destroy the sanctity of your clean audio when it goes on the website. So really, don't obsess about it. I'll just leave this for you. There's an AI for that.com. You're welcome. Next thing, Synco D2 microphone. This is a shotgun mic, a budget shotgun mic, is not a great substitute for the MKH416. Yes, they look very similar. Yes, they're made with the same kind of materials. Clearly, it was designed to act like a 416, but trust me, I've heard it many times, and it's not a bad sounding mic. It just does not sound like a Sennheiser MKH416. It is not a stand-in for that mic. It doesn't sound anything like that mic. The D2 is a very dull, flat sounding mic.
But does it have a hypercardioid pattern like a 416?
It's designed to have one. It has that same line array, whatever they call that. Not a line array, interference tube, whatever it's called when a shotgun mic has holes down the side.
The thing
right?
on the side there, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that. And by design, it's hypercardioid. But in terms of its EQ, the tonal character of the mic, it's extremely flat sounding and dull sounding, where a 416 is a very bright and forward, hyped, dare I say, sounding microphone. Okay, so I have had to try to make a D2 sound like a 416 with EQ, and I was kind of successful, but they do not sound the same. So don't, I've seen this coming up on Facebook today. It is just ain't true, folks. They're very different mics. On another subject, I finally got around to reviewing some acoustical panels that were acoustical. Well, let's see if I can stop that and actually share it so you can see. I finally got around to reviewing some acoustical panels by a company I met at NAMM show, and they're called the ProSoCoustic WavePro series acoustic panels. And I am definitely not going to show you that 10-minute video, but I'll show you enough to whet your appetite so you understand what it's about. The inside of the panel isn't just acoustical absorption. There's also a diffuser, the diffuser core.
George the Tech.
Hey everybody, George the Tech. I'm inside my booth here because I want to test out some acoustical panels that were sent to me. And the best way to do it is to really put them in your booth. What I've got here are acoustical panels from the company ProSoCoustic. I met them at NAMM show this year in Anaheim, California. They were nice enough to get me a couple of their unique panels to try out. So right now my booth is pretty well treated. It's got the stock acoustical foam that comes with the Studio Bricks booth. This is a Studio Bricks 1, so it's a rather small booth. But right now it's got some enhancements in it, including some bass traps like these. Here's the Tech, and you can watch the full review. It's only about 8 minutes long, and I get to really test those things out. And that's why I'm so lucky and glad to finally have a ISO booth where I can test stuff out. So as time moves on, I will try to do more microphone tests in there, more acoustics tests, and since I have that controlled environment. But if you want to hear about these panels and actually hear what they do and see how they work, check that out on my YouTube channel. Lastly, I think this is the last thing, Zoom 5.15.3, 5.15.3 is out. And what they've done now is it has what they call persistent audio settings. I think I've talked about this already on the show, but now it actually does work. So if you set an audio channel in your TwistedWave audio preferences, let's say you want to have channel 1 because that's your desk mic, and channel 11 because when you play back something, that's where the audio comes in. Now you can do that. And you can get that to work set. And not only that, but it will remember those settings. You don't have to keep resetting them over and over and over, which was super annoying. So progress has been made by the team at Zoom, and I'm really glad to see that. So a little new thing from Zoom to try out. And that's it for the tech update for the week.
All righty. Well, I got an interesting video this morning. Well, we got an interesting video this morning from somebody who was complaining that a lot of people like this, the Synco, not the Synco D2, the Stellar X2.
Stellar X2, yes.
The Stellar X2, which is a fine studio condenser microphone.
Yep.
And Chris was, he was saying that it was noisy than his other mics, which is a TLM 102 and a 416. And I'm like, well, it really shouldn't be. It's a very quiet mic. We know people like the Stellar X2. But then he showed me why he thought that. And then if you watch this, I won't play all of it, but let's see if you can figure out why he was hearing some noise here.
Here it is, the X2. I'm running it through a Odeon ID4. And the gain, we're running it through the cable that they suggest we run it through, which is the Amazon Basic cable. I've used it from the website. And this is through the Audient ID14. The gain on this channel we're looking at is going to be around about a 7 out of 10. So what we're going to do is we're just going to switch over to the audio from the actual microphone. And I'm going to get some tests coming up shortly. This is said to have a noise floor of -13 dBA. I also have a Neumann TLM 102, which has a noise floor of 12 dBA, apparently, according to them. And then a Sennheiser 416, which is meant to have between, I think, 12 and 16 dBA. So you can be the judge. But I'm going to just hit record. We're going to have some ambient room noise, and we're going to listen from there.
Okay, so you're hearing the X2 now.
What is he doing wrong?
You be the judge.
We now have the Neumann TLM 102. I have not touched that, so I'm just going to turn on the phantom power.
And you're now hearing the audio from the Neumann 102.
Okay, so what was he doing wrong there? And why do you think that his X2 was noisy? Well, for starters, he broke the number one rule of how to submit audio. He was doing it in 2-track, and he was only recording in his left channel. So when you amplify that, when you normalize it or anything like that, the blank channel still gets into the audio, and you're going to get white noise from there. And I think that his Stellar X2 is probably just fine, and he's getting white noise from the extra channel. But one other thing, his levels are way too low. And, you know, whenever people record with these little tiny waveforms, and then they try and boost it, normalize it, or amplify it, it creates noise. It creates white noise. So if you've got a low track to start with, and you've got a blank track, and you're trying to raise the volume on that, you're going to get white noise, and you're going to think, well, this mic isn't as quiet as it sounds. Or indeed, he just has a bad mic, which happens.
Well, it does happen, especially when they're produced in
massive quantities.
In massive quantities in a factory where not every microphone gets individually tested by a technician and, you know, signed off and quality controlled before it ships out. I mean, if they do that, that is, first of all, that'd be incredibly impressive at a $200 price point. Very. Because that's the big thing. You might have one Stellar X2 that's clean, and you might have another one that just isn't the same. Doesn't sound exactly the same. And there's just, because the likelihood of them doing that level of testing from mic to mic, very unlikely, right? Another thing that stood out to me too, Dan, he had literally no meters in TwistedWave. He literally had the meters hidden. So he couldn't even look to verify what the levels actually were. So that was a bit of an issue too. And then didn't he tell you that the way he makes it mono again is he literally mixes channel 1 and 2 into a mono file?
Yeah.
So whatever noise is ambient noises on channel 1 gets mixed into the other track. So now you've got 2 layers of noise mixed on top. So there were a couple things I had flaws with that test. I mean, also, what gain setting did he use? Were they both at the exact same gain? Because some mics have different sensitivity, right? So one might record louder than the other at the same gain.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that make that a little bit challenging to get a true impression of the noise.
Yeah. It's really, really important to understand proper input levels. And, you know, and we talk about this all the time. Always in the green, always in the yellow, you know, depending on what interface you're using and what meter you're using, into the orange and with a flash of red every now and again. If you record too low and you bring it back up, it's going to make noise.
Especially if it's 16-bit. If you record in 16-bit,
yeah,
and you do a large normalization to bring up level, you're going to have an increase in noise due to something called aliasing. So if you're going to record those lower levels, then do 24-bit recording, and you can get away with a lot.
Right.
You can be a lot more conservative on the levels.
Right. And which is one of the reasons we really like the new Rode NT1 5th Gen, because you can record at 32-bit with that, and you can be too quiet, or you could be too noisy, or you're too loud, and you just normalize it back into where it's supposed to be, and it doesn't break up, and it doesn't add noise, because
doesn't add distortion.
None of that. And plus, the NT1 has always been an incredibly quiet mic, but they've just done some amazing things with that. So, but back to the Stellar X2, you know, maybe it is a noisy mic, but he was not giving it the test to really determine that. And if he would send us a good mono file properly modulated, perhaps we could see, oh yeah, it's noisy, or nah, he just did it wrong.
Yeah.
So-
It's also tough to judge over YouTube because YouTube audio, of course, isn't raw. It's not wave or anything. It's its own, it's processed in some way to go on YouTube. So if you really want us to get analytical, send us a wave file with each file in the same. I like to have them in the same wave file with a marker, but you can send them as separate files. But do due diligence to get good levels and match them to begin with, and then take a listen. I also have a thing called mic check. You can send me several different mic samples from different microphones with your voice, and I'll listen to them closely and compare them and kind of rank them for you. Give you my opinion, at least, on what one sounds best on your voice. So there's that option as well.
Yeah. So, but I was talking about the 32-bit thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a second. We have a couple of minutes here. Recording a 32-bit, everybody's been probably doing a 16 or 24. If you do it at 32, it gives you that advantage where you can, if you happen to record too low, you can make it work. Or if you record too loud. So say if you're doing video games or something and you're yelling into that mic, you're not going to overmodulate. So it's a really cool feature.
Well, it has to be implemented by the mic itself. In terms of this particular mic you're talking about,
yeah,
it has a very, very unique internal circuitry that enable this 32-bit float recording to give you the benefit.
Right.
Like if you just take any old mic and any old interface and just record in 32-bit, you won't get the advantage of it. You do have to have the gear that's capturing at that expanded bit rate. And there's some other voodoo in the box. Actually, Rode has some really good videos on YouTube explaining exactly how that thing works and why it actually works. And it's fascinating. It's really interesting. I haven't seen too many other pieces of gear that can do 32-bit float, or at least do it properly.
Yeah.
And this one seems to do it, from what I can tell, does it the right way. So, it's really interesting.
It's always about the levels. You remember what I'm always saying? It's the acoustics, how you use your microphone, using proper technique, and setting proper levels. And no one seems to understand that. Well, anyway, we've got a few questions, and if you've got a question for us, throw it in the chat room right now, whether you're on Facebook or in YouTube or perhaps watching us on LinkedIn now. Throw it in the chat room if you've got a question about home voiceover studio technology, gear, a problem, all sorts of stuff. Throw it in there right now, and Jeff Holman will get that question to us. Toot sweet. All righty. We're going to take a break right here. We'll be right back with all your questions and more stuff right after this.
Hi, this is Bill Farmer, and you are watching VoiceOver Body Shop. It's great.
It's vacation time, just about everywhere. For example, here's Australian voiceover pro Andrew Peters on vacation in London recording a commercial with his Portabooth Pro. Why is the Portabooth Pro gaining users worldwide? Well, just listen.
Winter's tough. The rain, the wind, the cold.
Performers can capture great audio even in acoustically untreated spaces with the Portabooth Pro. Your microphone hears the sound of a human-sized sound booth at a fraction of the size and cost. The Pro accommodates large and long microphones, lengthy scripts, and e-reading devices. The Harlan Hogan Portabooth Pro is lined with Auralex studio foam. It's a professional quality sound studio that assembles in less than a minute. And its multi-pocketed carrying case makes it super easy to take your gear and your voice wherever you go. Order your Harlan Hogan Portabooth Pro now. Just $389.99. Only at voiceoveressentials.com.
What else does that guy Andrew Peters from that last commercial use when he travels? Source Connect. That's right, for sure. I've known him quite a long time. Source Connect is part of his arsenal, and it's because the majority of the clients that he's working with are using it too. And it's a preferred weapon of choice for so many productions because of that workflow. Your audio comes from your studio through the internet straight into the timeline of their DAW. Most of the time Pro Tools, but whatever they're using, Nuendo, whatever pro level multi-track DAW they're using, even Reaper, it's going to capture the audio. And if there's even a single dropout or a glitch or anything, using the magic of Cue Manager, it will automatically replace the dropout or the glitch in the audio And even more so, you can even have it replace the entire file with a completely unprocessed, uncompressed audio file to go into the timeline. And it does it all magically in the background. It's amazing tech, and really it's what pros prefer for a lot of the voiceover type work out there. So you should know what it is. Go over to source-elements.com. Get yourself set up with an account. Start learning. I recommend getting the subscription so you can be held, your hand can be held by their amazing support team through the entire process. If you don't get that support, you may end up paying me or us for that support. So you might as well get the support directly from them, and it's worth it. So anyway, thanks Source Elements. We appreciate your support. Go check them out, and let's get to all those questions right after this.
Is AI coming for your voiceover career? Is it going to take all of your jobs? Man, do we hear that question a lot. And there's a lot of people that are fearful that the answer to that is yes. Well, I've been working in performance and technology simultaneously throughout my career, beginning in the 70s. And I've seen the incursion of technology, both good and bad. And I want you to have the facts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a course, which I'm going to give away for free. I'm aiming for mid-August or so, talking about synthetic voices and what they mean to your future and your success. So it'll be at voheroes.com. I'll give you details as soon as we're ready to go. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th. I thank you so much for watching and for listening to VOBS. And stand by. We'll get that course to you very soon.
This is Ariana Ratner, and you're enjoying VoiceOver Body Shop with Dan Leonard and George Whittam. VOBS.TV.
All right. Got a few questions here and a few more coming in. If you got them, throw them in the chat room now, because this is what George and I love to do, is answer your questions. I mean, he and I could just talk for, hours and hours. I mean, look, 256 episodes of VoiceOver Body Shop. This is episode... what is it? 156 106.
106 of Tech Talk.
106 Tech Talks. We never have a problem coming up with stuff to talk about. Sharp there, Sue. Very good. And we love hearing from you. I think that's probably the best part of our jobs, is talking to you guys. Unless there's some people like, hey, not this person again. But we always try to help. We won't throw you off. Anyway, so let's get to some of these questions, and some of them are very good questions. They're all good questions. Any questions. There's no stupid questions, just questions. So from John Conlon, regarding the new Rodecaster Duo for VO and radio work, pros, cons, would love your opinion. Is the Rodecaster Duo compatible with TwistedWave? Well, let's start with the first one. This thing is designed for exactly what you're talking about, which is live production. Mostly it was designed specifically for podcasting. And there's a lot of people doing podcasts who don't necessarily know how to do a podcast. And Rode came up with this, the original Rodecaster Pro, and now the 2, which has some really nice improvements to it. It's got 4, mic inputs. It's got all this stuff so you can mix things and add things like, and the only thing you can have all sorts of fun stuff, which if you're doing radio, we used to have a cart machine.
Yeah.
And it was a continuous loop cart, and you'd shove it in there, and you can have sound effects on there. And that's what it was for. It's all self-contained in this unique package, which is the Rodecaster Pro and the Rodecaster Pro 2.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
Yeah, just have random buttons with random samples on there.
That's right, exactly.
And they're all nameable, and it's a lot of fun.
When things get really dull, I always go to. Okay, there's
yeah.
All right,
it's a lot of fun
stuff.
if you came from radio and you miss those days of being on the radio and you want to have those functionalities. For a voice actor, it's still probably overkill. The Duo, even though it's simpler and has 2 mic inputs instead of 4, it's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit cheaper. It's still going to have the same preamps and the same functionality for the most part. I would say for sure the Broadcaster Pro 2, which is what I have on my desk, is absolutely overkill for someone who just produces themselves at home.
Right.
You don't need all that functionality. The Duo would probably be a much more simpler or sensible solution for $200 less. I would like it if they made one that's even less expensive than that, because you don't even need sound effects buttons most of the time. You could have really something much more simplified than that. Yeah, and the question, does it work with TwistedWave? Yes, it absolutely will work with TwistedWave. Sure. It's just another USB audio interface that your computer is going to see. In fact, it's multiple USB audio interfaces. In the case of the one I have, it shows up as two USB audio interfaces. There's the multi-channel and there's the chat channel for having two separate mixes. And that's what allows us to do things like play back YouTube while you guys all hear it on the show, because of that ability to play things back. This one has another trick up its sleeve, which I have to look if the Duo has. It has another USB port, so you can plug it into another port on the same computer, giving you even more channels, or you can plug it into another phone or another PC or a gaming console, blah, 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 blah.
Right. So, and it has Bluetooth too, so you can actually pull in something off your phone on Bluetooth or another Bluetooth compatible input. So that it's got a lot of stuff shoved into it, which is why we like it. And again, and like George said, it's just an interface with a lot of cool electronics,
cool bells and whistles,
right? Which they've also shoved into the NT1 5th gen.
Because what they've done now with these new USB devices, the NT1 5th gen specifically, is when you use the app that they have called Road Central. Is it Road Central? Yeah, Road Central. Right. Now you have access to not only all the functions of the inside of the mic. Actually, it's called Road Connect. When you use Road Connect, now you get to, the mic starts to become sort of like a mini Roadcaster. So it gives you like playback loops and built-in recording, has like a backup recording functionality, and you get a lot more features. And you haven't even bought the whole mixer; you just have that USB mic. So,
right,
yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. It's a little overkill. It's certainly got more features than most people would need. But if you find those features are going to make your life better, or if you really are serious about producing a podcast / live stream, especially, you're going to probably like it a lot.
All right. Question from Jeff Seart on YouTube. As an improv, which we were talking about last week, is it too over the top to throw a character voice into a VO submission, even if it doesn't ask for that? I think that's sort of a a question that you've already answered. No, you don't throw a character voice into an audition or a VO submission if it doesn't ask for it. I mean, yeah, there's improv and there's like maybe riffing on some copy or something like that. But if it's not asking for a specific character, I mean, usually the spec is going to give you, somebody 25 to 45 or a senior citizen or whatever. It's asking you not necessarily to do a character, but to do what it is they're asking for. If it asks for a character, yeah, you do a character. But if it's just for something else, just an audition for a commercial or for some e-learning thing, no, you don't throw a character in there. And it doesn't help if you're really going off the reservation with that. So no, I would not do that.
This one's from Mike Cunningham, and he says, any experience with the Lewitt 940? If so, what are your thoughts on using it as a single source mic instead of getting something like a 416 along with the 103 or my current tube mic, which I guess we're supposed to know what that is.
Yeah.
The Lewitt 940, which I'm Googling right now because nobody I know is using one, is a tube microphone. It's $1,800. And, if you're making a good living in voiceover and it's time to treat yourself, and you had a hell of a good year, go ahead and buy yourself something really fun and expensive and fancy like that. I would never, ever recommend it to any voice actor because of its overwhelming complexity, its many switchable patterns. It's a blend of tube and FET. It's a bells and whistles microphone, right? It does all kinds of things. And no, I don't know if it would be a one mic solution to replace a TLM 103 and a 41.6. I don't know that. Like I would have to hear that mic. I would much more likely recommend, if you're getting into this realm of cost, I would much more likely recommend the Sphere from Universal Audio, because that truly does model all of the microphones that you've mentioned. It's a lot less than this thing. It doesn't have any tube to worry about burning out or fading out. So that's the direction I would go if I really am going to looking at spending that kind of money. Like if you don't have an Apollo, buy the Apollo Solo and the Townsend for $1,500 roughly, and it runs circles around this mic in terms of flexibility, whatever. So, I don't, but I'm coming at this from someone that has not used this microphone, and I don't believe I have heard it on anybody's voice tracks yet. Yeah. So,
we tested a Lewitt a couple of years ago when we did.
Was it the Pure 240 or something like that? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, and I know it was very flat, and it had very low output. I'm assuming that the folks at Lewitt have probably improved on that, but
I think that was I don't know if that was a bum mic. It did have a bizarrely low output. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I've heard that mic since, and I've heard good things. The 440 Pure actually is the one I'm thinking of, and that one has been nothing but really good sounding audio that I've heard from people that have sent me samples. So, Lewitt's a weird little company. I think the engineers are spun off from the AKG team. Some of them were over at AKG. I don't have a warm and fuzzy feeling. I know some people that love their Lewitts. It doesn't have a track record for me yet in terms of something I'm going to absolutely say without a doubt I recommend. Yeah, so especially at that high end price point.
Yeah, somebody sent me something with the Lewitt this week, but that was the thing I noticed is the output was low. Mm-hmm. And meaning it probably can handle a lot of SPL, sound pressure level. So if you're singing or you're yelling into the mic, a quiet mic like that doesn't have a lot of output is probably able to handle it, especially at that price point, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. There's no reason you should be spending $1,800 on a new mic, unless, as George said, you want to treat yourself to something. But there's no microphone out there that's going to change the way you interpret copy, which is what they're really looking for.
Or how you tune your acoustics, or where you put the mic.
Exactly.
All that stuff is so much more important.
Right. You can get away with, what are some of the mics we talk about? We've been talking.
The Rode NT1, the NT1. Stellar X2.
$249 for the NT1 5th Gen. What a bargain and a half that is. And it gives you so much functionality, which is really cool. And, the Audio Technica mics, above the 2020, you get to the 2035 or the 2050 or the 4040. These are not expensive microphones, and they sound fine. Now, this is the MV50 for Mojave.
$499, right?
$499, yeah.
That's the most I would spend unless you are literally making a living and really making a profit in voiceover. Yeah. I would not spend more than $500 at all when you're getting started.
Yeah, get that out of your head. So it's not the microphone. Question from Max Goldberg. Go for it.
Let me get the one from Jeff first before I forget.
Jeff Holman, yes.
He says, poor Jeff. Yeah, you are suffering like many others. The problem I mentioned about headphones being too detailed, I hear every tiny noise, every little epiglottis flump, whatever, everything, and it's because you're listening to your audio under a scanning electron microscope. Right? And
you
for
see the
years,
germs in his voice.
Yeah, well, for years ago, I remember Dan and I, we really were debating the whole speaker thing. Dan said I'd like to use monitors. I would always tell people to use headphones. But in the end of the day, the headphones are so detailed and so clear that they do overly boost certain frequencies, and some of them tend to be the ones that you have the biggest issues with, right? And I don't think it's really healthy for the actor to have to be the extremely picky producer on everything that they do. Again, you do have to make that judgment call. This is something you are going to struggle with as you get more and more experience as to how much should I obsess about this audio? How much you obsess about the audio is very much proportional to or maybe disproportionate to the length. The shorter the script, the higher the rate you're getting paid, the more you should obsess over the sound. If it's a long form job, an e-learning project, an audio-book, or anything long, and it's a low rate, do not get to that analytical level. But really, to answer your question more, you're using the Audio-Technica M40X headphones, probably maybe because I mentioned them. I know I like them. They are still a little bit more on the detail side. Now, I'm using the Harlan Hogan headphones right now, the Gen 2s. They're a little flatter sounding. They are not bright, edgy, crisp, and hyped. So they may be a little bit better choice, possibly. However, you might want to just try speakers for a while, and don't overspend on speakers, right? Because you don't need super incredibly detailed speakers, or you'll have the same problem again. Right. So you might just choose to just use whatever Bluetooth speaker you have as just an experiment.
Right.
You use the one you've already probably got that you throw in your bag when you go to the beach, or the one that you take to your friends, whatever. If you're like me, you've got more than one Bluetooth speaker. But if you've got a Bluetooth, just play back your audio through that for a while as a test. Don't use it, though, in Bluetooth mode. Look for a little flap on the back. It should be an aux input. Not all of them have this now. But it should have an aux input for an 1/8" cable. Plug that in, because then when you hit play, it has no latency. Mm-hmm. So when you're stopping and starting and editing, it won't drive you quite as crazy. And then give that a try. Don't go crazy with speakers at this point.
Yeah, but he also mentions that, what kind of problems might he encounter using monitors in a small booth? And we talk about the fact that if you're using studio monitors, the place where you are listening to it also has to be acoustically treated, so you're not getting reflections off the back wall, and you're getting a false impression of what the actual ambiance of your studio is. Yep. So, I'm using a pair of Yamaha H2s, which I happen to like a whole lot. Mm-hmm. Very flat, plenty of loudness. Also remember that speakers or monitors are what we call near field monitors, and the optimal place is about 3 feet away at about a 30-degree angle, so they converge that way. And they give you a lot of detail, but they don't overemphasize it. Again, when you're listening on headphones, it's going to drive you nuts. But can you use them in a small booth? Not recommended. It's because the acoustics in there are going to be really weird.
And what's going to happen is so a speaker is a cabinet, right? There's speakers and they're inside a cabinet. When you put the cabinet inside your small booth, your booth is now another cabinet that the cabinet is inside of. So it also resonates and so it will always tend to build up low end. You're going to get a lot more boominess or bottom heaviness out of your. So if you're going to put something in your booth, it should be pretty damn tiny. It should be small and not have a ton of bass, because it will, even 5-inch monitors, maybe even 3-inch monitors will be quite boomy in a small booth. So again, small, and don't run them very loud. Keep the levels kind of low.
Well, it brings up the question, a lot of people edit in their booth. Mm-hmm.
Usually with headphones, probably.
And usually with headphones, yeah. I stopped doing that a long time ago because, I've always separated my engineering of space from my recording space.
Yeah.
I have my mic, it's in my booth. That's all that's in there, and an iPad where I can read copy, and a music stand to see my copy, if it's printed.
Yeah.
And I do most of my work out here in the voiceover body shop, where I do my editing and all that stuff, because that's where my comfortable chair is. But I have the speakers set up here, and and I'm listening to people's audio, and I want to hear the detail that I need to hear, not every little mouth click and all those other things. So, they're for outside your booth. So if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Which brings us to the next question, because it sort of answers the question that we were just talking about from Max Goldberg. He says, I picked up a pair of iLoud monitors for reference while editing. They're pretty affordable and to me sound great in the booth. Have you guys ever checked them out? Those are those multimedia speakers from what's the company?
IK Multimedia.
IK Multimedia, exactly.
They make a whole line of speakers. That's their generic. Their name for their monitors is iLoud.
iLoud, yeah.
So they've got a whole bunch of different ones. So I don't know which ones that he's referring to. They have the micro monitors, which look kind of like little baby speakers, little tiny ones with a woofer and a tweeter.
But they sound great.
And they sound amazingly good. They have quite a bit of low end, but I do believe they let you adjust the low end. So if you do get speakers that have a bass control or any kind of a tone control, set it so the bass is reduced. Like this particular speaker, this is the let me show on screen because this is a visual thing. Boop, boop, boop. Okay.
Boom.
This speaker has.
Boom. Come on,
there we
can
go.
Bring it up. Come on.
This speaker has some switches on the back for EQ.
Right.
One of them says flat or LF -3 dB. If you're going to use these in a small room or near a wall, definitely engage that -3 dB LF. And what that's going to do is make the speaker output less low end. So they're not as full and rich sounding and boomy.
Sort of a high pass filter.
It is exactly that. It's just a high pass filter. It's a very minimal one. It's only 3 dB, but it's enough to make a difference, and it will really help the clarity of the speaker in a small booth. It also has a high frequency boost switch, which depending on where the speaker is and how close it is to you, you might want to turn that on or off. So you just have to kind of compare it to different things. It also has a flat versus desk position. I would put it in desk position. That also will probably reduce the low end of the speaker, because when it's sitting right on a desk, it needs to output less low end. Otherwise, it will sound hyped in the low end.
All right. Nancy Bober asks, so I'm replacing my old AKG K240s, which are headphones, with a wonky cable, meaning it's not working, with the new DT770 Pro K. Those are, which manufacturer? The DT70s?
Well, the Beyerdynamics.
Beyerdynamics, right. Are the AKGs worth holding on to or replacing the cable? Do they have a cable that is replaceable? Replacing cables is a pain in the ass. You've got to know how to solder. It's all sorts of stuff. So
if it's old enough, and it must be a pretty old AKG because they did not have replaceable cables.
Right. Back
in the day. And it's probably not worth it unless you're a headphone hoarder like I am, and then you keep everything. But no, probably not. I mean, once you get used to the DT770s, which sound pretty different from the 240s, now you're going to be relearning those headphones, and then going back to the AKGs are going to sound totally different.
Yeah.
So you'll forget what they sounded like. I would just let them go. Yeah. Let them go.
And Justin Ramos on YouTube asks, what to look out for when buying used mics, besides a good return policy?
Well, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Any simple tests you would do to verify if any part of it's broken? Thank you. Plug it in and record with it. And
do the rattle test. if you shake it
and you hear something,
it goes, there's something broken. Honestly, though, that's a pretty good test. If you get a mic and there's anything rattling in that mic, it's got something going on. If it sounds good, it is good, as always. If, like the other gentleman that was doing a mic noise test, in his case, he felt it was too noisy. If you're not sure, again, Dan's got Specimen Collection Club. I've got Mic Check. I will listen to it compared to your other microphones because I like the context. That's why I have Mic Check. It's more money because I want you to send me more files, and I'm going to spend more time listening to the different files, comparing them, and so because I want to get an idea where the context, right? So I might decide that the new mic sounds worse than the mic you already had, and then you can decide what to do from there. But at the end of the day, if you don't trust your ears, get a second pair of ears to listen. But there's not that many things you can do other than plug it in and listen to it. The good thing about a used mic is if it sounds good the day you buy it, it's probably going to sound good for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, they're solid state. They really don't break unless you're like hammering nails with it. Which
they last.
Some mics you can. But
yeah, this one I think in particular was sold by showing
that mic specifically.
The 635A. It's so tough. But there's little that you can do to test other than just literally plug it in, give it a close listen, record some audio, play it back, compare it to the other microphone you already were using, and see how it compares. And that's how you're going to really know, I think.
And save yourself a few bucks in the process. Yes, it needs to have a good return policy. What kind of places sell used mics have a good return policy?
Some eBay sellers do. Just, be choosy.
Absolutely.
When you're buying used stuff.
Yes. All right. Well, another amazing hour has rolled by, believe it or not, and we've answered all your questions this week. But we want more questions. If you want to write to us and get your question first in the queue on Tech Talk, where do you go? Where do you write? You write to the guys at VOBS.TV and ask your question, and I guarantee you'll be at the front of the queue when we answer questions. It's nice to have people live listening to the show, and you have a certain advantage of being able to participate. We know most of you watch this in replay on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on YouTube and at our website VOBS.TV. But you really should make a point to be here when we do the show, and when you see a promo for the show coming up on Facebook, watch live and be interactive with us. We really like hearing that. What is it that you are? What is it you're doing right now? And not, guessing and listening a little bit later on. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to wrap things up for this week right after these important messages on VoiceOver Body Shop. So don't go away.
This is the Latin lover narrator from Jane the Virgin, Anthony Mendez, and you're enjoying Dan and George on the VoiceOver Body Shop.
Your dynamic voiceover career requires extra resources to keep moving ahead. There's one place where you can explore everything the voiceover industry has to offer. That place is voiceoverextra.com. Whether you're just exploring a voiceover career or a seasoned veteran ready to reach that next professional level, stay in touch with market trends, coaching, products, and services while avoiding scams and other pitfalls. VoiceOver Extra has hundreds of articles, free resources, and training that will save you time and help you succeed. Learn from the most respected talents, coaches, and industry insiders when you join the online sessions, bringing you the most current information on topics like audiobooks, auditioning, home studio setup and equipment, marketing, performance techniques, and much more. It's time to hit your one-stop daily resource for voiceover success. Sign up for a free subscription to newsletters and reports. It's all here at voiceoverextra.com. That's voiceoverextra.com.
All righty. I've told this story before, but now you get to hear it again. My good friend Joe Davis once asked me, what can I do for the voiceover business? Because, he's a webmaster and he was designing websites and, for law firms in Midtown Manhattan. So he was doing okay. But he wanted to start a web mastering system for people in the voiceover business. And I said, it shouldn't be a pain in the ass. He says, we can't use that. I'm like, I just did. Anyway, I said, templated websites. Someone goes in, they pick a template, they can customize it the way they want and get it out there as soon as possible. Well, he started voiceactorwebsites.com about 8-9 years ago and is very successful at it. And the technology came along to where it was easy for them to create a website that allows you to get your website up really fast. And that is voiceactor.com. Go over to voiceactor.com and get your website up and running in 20 minutes. And you can do it for free. And then if you want more and more features, of course, it could be $20 a month, but that's cheaper than a lot of other webmasters are going to charge you. And you have complete control over your website, being able to update your demos and change the colors or change your headshot if you have your headshot on there. So go over to voiceactor.com and get your website up and running right now.
We are the World Voices Organization,
also known as WOVO. We're the not-for-profit industry association of freelance voice talent. Voiceover is a complex entrepreneurial business.
WOVO is there to promote the professional nature of voice work to the public, to those already established in their voiceover practice,
and to those who want to pursue voiceover as a career.
Membership benefits include
a supportive and creative community,
a profile and demos on voiceover.biz, our searchable directory of vetted professional voice talent,
our exclusive demo player for your personal website,
our mentoring program, business resources, and our video library,
our annual WovoCon conference, a fun and educational weekend with other members with the chance to learn and network,
webinars and great speakers, and weekly social chats with other members around the world.
If your world is voiceover,
make WOVO part of it. World Voices Organization.
We speak for those who speak for a living.
This is Bill Ratner, and you're enjoying VoiceOver Body Shop with Dan Leonard and George Whittam. VOBS.TV.
And we're back. Well, 2 hours just goes by like that. It's amazing. Yeah. Next week on this show, another great guest. And I think we're pretty much set up to, maybe not taking a couple of weeks off for the next couple of months. So, fresh content for you every week. Let's see here. Who are our donors of the week?
Oh, I see a lot of familiar names. Let's start with Greg Cooper,
Grace Newton,
Christopher Epperson,
Robert Leadham,
Stephen Chandler,
Casey Clack,
Jonathan Grant,
Thomas Pinto,
Greg Thomas,
A Doctor Voice,
Antland Productions,
Martha Kahn,
949 Designs,
Sarah Borges,
Philip Sapir,
Brian Page,
Rob Ryder,
Shauna Pentington Baird,
Don Griffith,
Trey Mosley,
Diana Birdsall,
Maria Makis, and
Sandra Manwiller, or Sandra is the way she prefers it.
Yes. So, and of course, you can leave us, an endowment from your will if you really like what we do and want to keep doing it. Anyway, remember, if you want help with your home voiceover studio, you can talk to me over at homevoiceoverstudio.com. And George is over at his mega complex, GeorgeD.Tech.
Mega complex. Yeah, and you still get your VOBS Fan 10% off.
All right.
Funny how few of you use that coupon, but it's still active.
It's right there, for crying out loud.
It's good for webinars. It's good for any content. It's good for any services.
All right. We need to thank our sponsors, of course, like Harlan Hogan's VoiceOver Essentials,
VoiceOver Extra,
Source Elements,
VOHeroes.com,
VoiceActor.com,
and
WorldVoices.org. Yes, I'm the president, and that shouldn't make any difference whether you want to join or not. But we're coming alive over at WOVO. Lots of cool stuff, webinars, and our conference next year, and there's a lot of fun stuff that goes on with WOVO, so make sure you get in there. Let's see here. Jeff Holman doing a kick-ass job in the chat room tonight.
Sure is.
Because getting us all those questions to us and participating himself. Sue Merlino, who is our wonderful director, she gets it done every time we key up the live broadcast. She's there and makes it happen. And of course, Lee Penny, just for being Lee Penny. You out there, Lee? Come visit us, for crying out loud. That's going to do it for us this week. We're here to help you with your home voiceover studio audio. But the bottom line is, if it sounds good,
it is good.
I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop,
or VOBS TECH-TALK.
TECH-TALK, 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 TECH.
Thanks, Jeff. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a good one.